We are most familiar with the Inupiaq culture of Alaska's Seward Peninsula. This culture is over 4,000 years old, and it is believed that the games have been played for centuries. However, like all elements of Native culture, the game tradition started to slip away during the period of rapid social change that occurred when waves of Euro-Americans came to the region. In the last 60 years, while yet more Euro-Americans moved in, increasing numbers of Inupiaq villagers left their villages. Many left to pursue education, jobs, or medical care. For substantial numbers, the temporary stay eventually became permanent family relocations in cities such as Anchorage. These relocations and separations from extended family and land have challenged the cultural continuity and identification with the heritage. Cultural identity remains a major area of concern. The merit of activities such as the games are often discussed in terms of preserving our culture or teaching our values. The games are a broad term for specific contests. 10 events are routinely contested at Wayo. Informal gatherings, such as New Year's Eve celebrations in Barrow or Anchorage, will have additional challenging contests. In March 2011, PBS will be airing a program, Games of the North. This Alaska-made documentary has incredible footage of historic and current contests. It shows both the game event and the skills potential use in subsistence hunting. If someone has never seen the games, PBS's Games of the North is essential viewing. There was a historic connection to the culture between the games and the subsistence hunting upon which the communities depended. The games helped nurture skills that would provide protective benefits for the young hunter, and the young hunter in turn brought home the necessary food to sustain this community. Protective benefits and benefits for the community continue today. The type of benefit has changed, but the importance of games continues.
The Inupiaq people lived a very holistic way of life. It was interconnected. The games today have played an important role for our people. They are a tool that we use to promote health and wellness amongst our people, not only physical health. Native games do test us physically, but they also test our mental strength, our confidence, our focus on achieving our goals. They're also very important to our spiritual health because through the games we're able to learn beautiful spiritual values that have been passed down to us from our elders.
There's not very much written specific to Alaska Native games, but even in those resources, the subsistence spirituality related to the games is often not explicitly mentioned or explored. There are references to the values, references to the culture. And I've wondered about this absence of spirituality because spirituality is deeply integrated throughout Inupiaq culture. It could be that Native people know when they're using the word culture, they're referencing spirituality. Or perhaps the absence of more explicit discussion has to do with concerns, old missionary responses to very traditional cultural things and maybe some ambiguity concerns. But the games, unlike the dances, don't have direct, say, shaman references that people have preserved or that we're aware of. And so it seems as if a focus on spirituality specifically is a bit overdue. There are many attempts to explain Native spirituality or Inupiaq spirituality. We always walk away feeling as if none do justice to the beauty and the complexity. But there is a model actually offered by Tu Wei Ming for a different spiritual system that I think with some modifications helps us here. And so we see at the center the self. This is not that the world revolves around the individual, but the individual is definitely embedded in these other very mutual relationships. There is exchange between the individual and family, for example, and both are shaped by that relationship. Likewise, the family sits within the community. The community is shaping the family, is shaping the individual. We see these relationships within relationships within relationships. It goes from community to perhaps ancestors, ancestors to animals and land, and on out to creator, however a person chooses to refer to that. It suggests that actions are connected throughout the cosmos. One's behavior is never about oneself. One's skill is never for oneself. One scholar has referred to this as a non-dual kind of spirituality. Researchers who have focused on the connections between types of spirituality and health have found that there are significant protective benefits for a non-dual, or this very dramatically interconnected view of the world. This interaction at which every relationship nurtures and is nurtured is important, and it's particularly important in the contemporary times for Native culture and for Alaska Natives living in urban settings far from their traditional lands and their extended families. That's a subsistence understanding, the animal giving itself, the land giving the berries. It's a trust and that this will occur. You can extend hospitality if you trust that this is abounding grace, but it's also respect and gratitude, and subsistence depends on this kind of awareness.
I've come to realize that every family, Alaska Native and Inupiaq, have significant struggles and hardships, often related to substance abuse, depression, suicide. Alaska Native people all over the state are trying to figure out what we can do to help our own people.
I think it's clear that the games had their effect.
When I first learned the games, when I was in high school, I did not realize then that I would be learning more than just the physical game. The values that I learned through the Native games are values that are important to our culture.
When you're living out a way of being, you don't have to theorize and conceptualize and explain it to someone. We see these teachings in small ways, but I think where it becomes really explicit is at the games. The youngsters are all taught the same thing. You, for example, never, ever quibble with an official's call. When you're done, you thank the officials with this kind of understanding that they have helped you. And of course the obvious question is, well, is it just really obvious every time you go up to do a high kick that you're connected right to the Creator at this minute? It's easy to speak of this in a way that's overly romantic, perhaps. There's some concerns that there are elements of the modern game forums that would be working against awareness of this kind of spirituality. Michael Hine, probably one of the strongest researchers, extensive research on Canadian-related Native games, points to what he calls the game festivals, and these would be the large gatherings like WAO. The culture is celebrated. The gathering, the food, the dancing, a holistic sense, and life is good. That's experienced there. At the same time, you suddenly have 3 medals, gold, silver, and bronze. Where did that come from? Those aspects of the larger festivals are, yes, mixed bag. But the less formal settings, such as you might see here in Anchorage at a New Year's Eve celebration, that's when I think you perhaps sense most the link between this non-dualistic spirituality and what it means. First of all, you're in a smaller space. It is a very intimate feel, much closer to perhaps what the traditional people felt. The setting is hospitality, not conquest. But there's also something that happens as the contests become more heated. And by heated, I mean that the games always start with the youngest competitors going first. The older competitors will be coaching the young ones and giving them hints and encouragement. Then when you get to what I would call the young hunter age, the room starts to get very quiet. The young men that get engaged didn't come intending to jump. They often came with a girlfriend or as a guest of someone. They came for the food, but we all get pulled in. They start to strip down. And the signs of status don't run well. And so the cell phone has to come out of the pocket, and the sunglasses come off, and the caps come off. It's just an incredible time where you do feel this strong community, not only to the people here, not only to the larger cultural community, but this sense of going on for eons and eons.
I think a lot of communities here in Alaska struggle with resources to promote our cultural activities in general, including Alaska Native Games.
And yet they require so little equipment or capital expenditure.
I don't think people who have those resources, I don't think they understand the significance to the health of Alaska Native individual and to our communities. The elementary school programs and the high school programs are wonderful when they exist, but even then they do not exist in every, programs do not exist in every school. There isn't consistency throughout our community for teaching these valuable games and the values that go along with them. Long ago and today, the health of the community was reflected in how healthy an individual was.
The Native Games uniquely offer the displaced or disaffected young hunter an orientation, a worldview from which the oft-spoken about values and heritage arise. The strength of the young is the pride of the family and the hope of the community. But it isn't simply physical strength in view. It is, perhaps even more, the inner strength and inner resources that come when one experiences or realizes profound interrelatedness and the gift nature of life itself. While offering all the drama of elite sport, the Native Games uniquely immerse competitor and community in this protective, spiritual, and highly relational worldview.